I did like a Star Wars theme event once.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah. All right. Well, hello. Welcome to whatever this is, our viral moment sphere of webinars with amazing people like yourselves, Michael. It's good to connect with you. I'm so glad that you can make it here on this busy beginning of Q4 Tuesday. So how's it going?
It's great. I'm sorry. I'm classically a few minutes late for everything today. It seems the weather. I'm going to blame it on the weather. No, but things are great. As great as they can be. Very, very busy, but busy is good. And yeah, I'm very grateful to be with you and have this conversation.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing it. You've done some amazing work with his here at ViralMoment, so I'm really excited to kind of share that out into the world, let people know of the crazy cool stuff that Hunter does. Give them some inspiration if they're a brand on what else is out there that they can do. But before we hop into some of the questions, just want to say a quick hi to everybody that's joining us. Sorry, we're a few minutes late, but I'm Elizabeth. I lead growth marketing strategy over here at ViralMoment. I'm really happy today to have Michael on the phone. Michael, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, hi everyone, Michael Lamp here. Last name is kind of what people refer to me as, Lamp. So that's how most people talk to me both day to day at work and in my personal life. So I have the great fortune of being the Chief Digital Officer at Hunter, where I look after a whole host of different businesses, working in tandem with our business unit leaders, managing directors across whether it's food, spirits, home, travel, tech, and so we're a very vertically driven organization doing all things marketing, communications, earned, owned, little bit of paid, a lot of influencer and creator, and specifically working as the chief digital officer. I sort of get to figure out or help figure out with my fabulous colleagues sort of the way we do owned, through an earned lens, right? Or in a paid world, how do we make earned on owned still a viable opportunity and option for our clients? So that's kind of how I spend my day.
It sounds busy and also quite fun.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's great fun. It's been, I've been a hunter for almost 18 years, which feels like many
Oh my gosh.
lifetimes in the agency world. But I was the first digital full-time staffer and sort of was able to build this department, which has been great. So has always been something new to sink my teeth into and to help to do something, to build something bigger. And there's always been so much change in social. So it's kind of hard to get bored if it's not AI or creator, it's commerce or it's community or, there's always something.
There's always something. And that actually is a really great segue to the first thing I want to ask you is you mentioned that Hunter works across like owned and earned and influencer content. Like you do a lot for these brands and you've been there a long time. Like you just said you were the first full digital hire on the team. So with the rise of social video, how has your approach to brand storytelling evolved? Can you share some insights and from like the platforms and what kind of you deliver today that large brands might expect? Maybe even something that's kind of surprised them, the growth of social
Well, I think
video.
Yeah, from a social video perspective, it's so interesting. I feel like we have to start like multiple levels up a little bit, which is not to be too super professorial about it, but I feel like social strategies or even social video strategies have been less about the platforms for a while. And I would argue more about the products within the platforms, meaning sort of, I think like TikTok's rise, the pandemic's sort of fueling of social video creation in a real sort of pedestrian way, but which made it accessible to people. I think that made social video for brands from something that was a big part of the mix to the main part of the mix and what they were creating. And then, you look at Instagram and this idea of products over the platform has never been truer, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
stories, reels, carousels, broadcast channels. I think yesterday, Adam Mosseri, who's the head of Instagram, announced another shift to the algorithm. And what I find really interesting, there's a lot of great reporting you can find on it. But one of the sort of TLDRs that I was reading about it was that reels are still the singular easiest way to get reach on Instagram, right? Because reels are
Mm-hmm.
optimized for people who aren't necessarily already your followers. So it's a way to me to get people's attention who aren't already fixed on you. And so when we're talking about whether it's partners like you at ViralMoment or other trends tools that we're using, that to me is the direct line, right? It's like something that's trending right now that we can turn into a reel that we post tomorrow that helps us to get the attention of someone who didn't know who our brand was yesterday, right? And I think, and I think more specifically in our health and beauty sector, in that particular business unit, where so much is creator driven and so much of usage is creator driven, which is trend driven, we're really focused on, I like to use this phrase like bubbling under, which is kind of like a Billboard chart phrase, like for the songs that aren't quite on the charts yet. But to me, that's a great way to think about, it's a great way to think about trends that are more ownable, right? Because they aren't necessarily everywhere yet. So if we can start to, so we'll do that. We'll sort of use these types of social video listening tools to understand what's emerging as a trend, whether it's simple as a hashtag or two heads in a video versus one, if it's a makeup application. And we'll use that to brief influencers who are more ambassadors. And we've seen great lift, right? Week over week, month over month, campaign over campaign. And in particular, when we can drive people to click off TikTok and we don't have, let's say, an optimization through the TikTok shop, that's about as Herculean a success as we can get, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much like variety with, trends or cultural moments, kind of depending on how you want to phrase it and kind of what the brand's looking for. When you're looking through this data and you're finding these like things that are bubbling up under the surface and what's emerging, how do you help clients kind of step into that cultural moment? Like what signals do you look for to know like when the time's right?
Yeah, well, it's different for every brand, right? I mean, I think that one of the things we struggle with, and when I say we, it's like the most royal we, is that people sometimes conflate their opinions and their interests with the opinions of the brand they represent or their audience, and it's sort of like your own danger. That said, social allows us the value of experimentation and the idea, and you can sort of, you can fail big sometimes in safe ways, but if it's too bold of a swing, it can sometimes create a bigger problem, right? We have a sort of slide in one of our creds decks. It's all about how screenshots last forever because, politicians get canceled, but brands also get embroiled in scandal, right? So I think for us, when we're standing sort of on the precipice of that bubbling under trend, and we're trying to help clients know, like, yeah, this is right for you, or we should stay out of this one. It's kind of, some of it is a little obvious, right? Is it reaching the audience you care about? Then the classic brand filter, is it ownable? I always try to shake people out of that, because if it's ownable, you would have already created it, right? So it's more about, is it accessible to us, is the way I would like to bring people's bring a better filter in, right? Is it accessible to the brand in some way? And then I think maybe most important is it over? Are we going to look desperate and thirsty, right? Maybe that's already an old phrase at this point, right? By posting about this, is this going to get caught in the approval, legal review thread, and we're never going to actually get to post this? That's the kind of stuff that I'm sort of watching, and those are the ways I think we're adjudicating. It does remind me just quickly of this determining if it's right. There was this article over the weekend in the Times that was sort of about in the New York Times about whether or not virality was over. This idea, and it was sort of but when you click past the headline, which obviously has a bigger sort of thesis, what it's really about is that we all live in what I would call like micro viral moments, not to sort of change your brand name, but what I mean by that is, people experience TikTok, and moreover, it's an example for the way they experience social media in corners, right? It's book talk, Swift talk, Taylor Swift's album, right? College football talk, clean talk. We work in the home space for a lot of clients. And so like our, clients that are cleaning supplies, like Lysols of the world, really care about clean talk. And so when you get into the article, it's really more about that we all sort of move into these corners. And so what might be viral to you, Elizabeth, might not be something that if you texted me about, I know about. Whereas, years ago, we both knew about Chewbacca Mom because of the video in the right, stuff still reaches that level. But I think what's important for brands to know is that it doesn't have to hit that total critical mass. There is this value of virality within your neighborhood of the internet, or the neighborhood of the internet where your audience is. And that's where, again, we're looking at tools to tell us, okay, this is teetering up a little bit, or this is where this part of TikTok is paying attention. Do you have anything that can resonate for them?
Yeah. And I mean, that's, hence the name ViralMoment, right? That's where we come in, we kind of get rid of that algorithm fog. So what's viral to me and what's viral to you are two different things, to your point. But you know, if for your brand, you want to make sure that you're seeing what's viral for your brand and your brand's consumers, and that doesn't always show up on your feed.
Both can create scale. It's just, what does scale mean, right? It doesn't have to always be everybody that has the internet knows about this. Like that, I think that is sometimes a false flag for like success, but you're exactly right. And there is also value. And I think what's cool about for our team using tools like ViralMoment is being able to say, oh, this is trending over here. This is trending over here. Our brand actually exists somewhere between. So can we leverage X and Y to tell a different story, a new one, right? So that's how you kind of land, to your point on that, on the initial impetus, I would say, of your question, which is to tell a client, now's the time to enter this, and here's how you enter this, and with what tools or what person's voice.
Yeah. And some of those insights can really come from many places, whether it's like the velocity of the conversation or an unexpected product use, surprising consumer behavior. Have you seen, or can you share with us, like how social video has revealed something like this and how it's kind of changed the client conversation or shaped the next move that you strategize for them to make?
Yeah. I mean, I think I know one of the ways we're using social, and specifically social video and social video listening, is to understand usage differently. My team, if anyone is listening to this now or in the future, they will roll their eyes when I talk about like every food brand needs a strong AI recipe strategy to be successful in the future. And I do feel very strongly about that. But that recipe strategy, the usage behind it, can be driven by the trends you find on, that get bubbled up to us through something like ViralMoment. The first thing that comes to mind actually is a few years old at this point, but it's just a great example of something happening online, changing our strategy for the better. And this is when we saw a piece of UGC, right? It's always like follow users, follow creators. And our client is Tabasco sauce. She was trying to fill a mini bottle of Tabasco, a very cute Tabasco mini, with a competitor sauce. And it was hijinks because it was obviously it's a different viscosity. And so it wouldn't fit into the bottle. She created a funny video. We had planned to do this whole heritage launch on TikTok, and we threw all that away and just engaged with her with our first ever TikTok post, sending her a bunch of minis so that she didn't have to refill with, it turned into this huge scaled opportunity. The competitor jumped in, she engaged back. We used tools to identify the same type of audience that was engaging with her on TikTok that would exist over here on Reddit, over here on Instagram. So we could go over there in it quickly, take the conversation, the story there. And then suddenly this sort of hot sauce wars began. TikTok as a platform even engaged, which is how you've reached some level of interest on the platform. But that's a really good example. And then to bring it full circle, now that team and other teams in our food business unit are using social listening tools, ViralMoment among them, to understand, okay, if I'm a brand like Tabasco and I've got an iconic logo, where am I in the background? Where am I on the table, right? If I'm a spirits brand, what bars, home bars am I in? What random adjacency do I have to food that suddenly now I can create recipes or pairings around? That's the way that we can use it on a more micro level.
Yeah, and using the AI layer of looking inside that video so you can see what's in your background. Like if you had a little bottle of Tabasco sauce back there, like we could read it.
Exactly. There's so much value in logo detection, right? I think like I talk about like the shrink online that exists. One of my first jobs was in a grocery store, and we used to say like there were all these signs in the break room. Shrink was, if you don't spot someone stealing, or if it's something, whatever, like that's, just lost value or whatever. To me, there's like shrink in social listening, and it's like the tree that falls in the woods. And if we don't know if we didn't see it, then it didn't happen, right? The perception is reality. This is a way when we can use like the team, when we're using ViralMoment to literally own AI's attention to a specific part of the internet, right? And say all of these images, all of these, brand phrases, to be able to that's a much more powerful way to be able to play this trend casting game versus boiling the ocean, being able to say, okay, here are the things that matter to us, help draw our attention to those things.
Yeah. And, you mentioned like perception and understanding the data, right? So some of social listening or social video intelligence can be complex and kind of, it's a new-ish world with the AI and the TikTok and the social video. So turning these analytics into action isn't really all that easy, especially when you're working with like the CMO of Tabasco or, any of those other brands, which also props on Tabasco for moving so fast with you all on the hot sauce wars. Because that was a big deal. It came across my feed and I'm not like the biggest of hot sauce eaters. And I was like, wow, like this is pretty big now. But how do you go about translating these strategic recommendations so that leadership will act on it and ensure that, you know, clients see you not just as a PR agency, but kind of as a brand building partner? What are some of the ways that you go about having those conversations?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few ways to do it. I mean, I would say that it occurs to me that there are three main ways in, and they all start with C. It's sort of like community, commerce, and unfortunately, crisis. And the reality of that is that, just let's be honest, the C-suite, the most oftentimes the opinions that carry the most weight aren't as interested in reports during sunny times. They want to know how you were transformative in getting them out of a problem, right? But starting with the other pieces, I think that getting to your piece about being an integrated partner and an integrated marketing partner for our clients, and not just a transactional PR vendor or social vendor. For us, that's about being able to show them something that exists over here and draw a direct line to the implications of the business, right? We talk a lot, like Hetty, my colleague, and who runs our intelligence team and all things insights and planning, we talk about outputs versus outcomes, and how can we use tools in our tech stack that are typically going to provide us the outputs, those signals. And so how can a signal, something as maybe as specific through ViralMoment, as a tool? One of the things I love that you all provide is that chatter score, right? The thing that helps us to say, this is a little trending a little bit more loudly. That's not as elegant way as it's written, I'm sure, on your collateral, but like this, something that's happening over in this person's corner of the web is engaging at a higher clip than their typical stuff does, right? If we can turn that signal of success into an action we can take, working with that person, they developed a recipe in advance of the holiday season that is catching fire, and we're going to then turn that into a huge Ask Me Anything with our recipe developer on Reddit, and then become the brand that rides that wave, right? We own it, right? That's a way that we can show them something small that suddenly, if that has big commerce value, and that recipe can suddenly be something that we do in partnership with a retail partner to do the kind of, in your basket e-com play, and that recipe is one click away. That's one way we show this simple trend online turned into this potential commerce opportunity through an e-com partner if you're in even the grocery business. For community, it maybe is sometimes the hardest to get people excited at the most senior levels, because they sort of expect community to be a part of their brands because their brands are the best, right? But if we can show, sometimes the community and the crisis can go hand in hand. If something nefarious is happening that we are unfortunately the benefactor of, or if people are just sharing a negative opinion about our brand that is swelling in a big way, how can we harness the power of community to stamp that out? Or if it's just recognizing, again, through something like a chatter score, hey, this thing over here, we have a typical expectation of what our benchmark of positive, negative neutrality might be in sentiment. And this is looking a little less than savory, and it's been looking that way for more than 24 hours. Through these tools, we can actually look more closely. And what I love about ViralMoment in particular is that we can then extract that data, use it in concert with some of our other tools to then not just say there's volume here, but where's there maybe momentum or movement? So, hey, this started on TikTok, but we know that the TikTok, that these particular voices are often, they're often scaled or amplified on Reddit. So if we know that already, or if we can learn that through sort of one engagement, then the next time something like this happens, we can go already over to Reddit, start monitoring, hopefully work with some strategic partnerships to get the information onto Reddit that's true, to stamp out the negativity, the falsehoods, whatever it is. But these are all tools that allow us to then go to that C-suite, go to that non-believer and say, hey, if we didn't have this social video sort of engine turned on and this monitoring engine turned on, we wouldn't have learned about this potential crisis until 2 weeks later, when it was already a huge deal. So to be able to get out in front of something is always the business of social media. If it's predicting behavior in a sunny time, or if it's trying to mitigate behavior in a less than sunny time, that's how we find great value. And if you can show someone that's writing the checks that their brand was made more safe because of a tool, you're kind of good to go.
Yeah, I love that. And it's really talking about how momentum kind of matters a little bit more than volume, right? So if you use a score like chatter score that we have, you can start to track like, oh, hey, people are talking faster about this. It's starting to take traction, rather than just the volume of it. It's more like how quickly is it gaining in this little sphere, then has it gone global yet and exploded and caused like an actual huge crisis.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think if you're playing with a deck, I think, right? It's one thing to be able to look look at a chart, and we all should be doing this and seeing, what the data is telling us. I've been on these different like crises types conversations where we talk about what can we look for in the data, right? Things like the vertical
Yeah.
cliff. Say, oh, that might be nefarious. Let's look at that a little bit further. But moreover, if we see that there's a swelling of volume of conversation on Tuesday on TikTok, and then by Wednesday it has moved into Instagram, and Thursday, like there's a narrative and there's a sequence that some of these things these follow. And if we can see that, and if we can learn that for brand A on during one engagement, whether it's a great or a negative one, then next time we can react better. But when we're in the brainstorming room, we can say to a client, because we always talk about at Hunter, moves and counter moves. That's what makes social great, right? It's people not knowing what to expect, and saying, we're going to put this out there, they're going to do this or that, and we have planned reactions to all those things, right? The same is true, whether it's positive or negative. If we know where people are going next to either be thrilled about something or to take the pitchforks, then we can get out there in advance and not be reacting, but be, sort of fanning the flames in advance.
Yeah, take the pitchforks. I like that. Um,
I'm a bay.
yeah, so we're just wrapping up here. We're right at time, but I have one last question for you. I know you've come a long way. As you said at the beginning of this chat, was like you've been at Hunter for 18 years. You started the whole digital movement over at Hunter. Where do you see the biggest opportunity for AI and data is going to lead us, like moving forward? How do you think kind of this? I mean, it's been 1 year of ChatGPT, maybe a little bit longer. I'm not quite sure, but it hasn't been that long, and the world has changed dramatically.
Yep.
Just from your experience, what do you think the future holds?
Well, I mean, I think this is something I spend a lot of my time talking about these days. I think that the biggest, to me, the biggest change in behavior because of this so-called agentic era is that our attention spans, believe it or not, have gotten even shorter. Our expectations have gotten even greater, right? We expect to ask a question of the internet in the broadest sense and be delivered an answer on demand. And so to me, what that means is that, and one of the ways I phrase this a lot is consumers have adopted a read without clicking behavior, right? They ask an answer engine optimized environment, a question, they get it. They don't bother to check the math of that source, which is, very dangerous. And so for me, that the biggest opportunity is how can we develop schemes that maybe utilize all the stuff we talked about today, like the trends analysis, recognizing something that's emerging, and figure out a way for that to get to these agentic environments in a hurry. We all know about the recency bias that, earned and owned content travels really quickly on large language models because of the index searching. But how can we get that one level deeper so that if there's a crisis happening and something's emerging on social, how do we ensure that the response plan that we take into effect over there pays us back agentically? And what I'm getting at there is sometimes these memories, these LLMs, are trained on lagging data from months ago. So even if you solve something on social media, how do you stamp it out on the agentic model so that it doesn't sustain the let's say crisis on your behalf? And that's where I think we have to get into some next level strategies around, okay, well, if you're working really smartly on the right social channels, then that content's going to sift through to the agentic models. That's phase one. I think phases 2 and 3 are the other players that are driving those pipes, filling those pipes, and getting the content out there in just a major way. But that's sort of what I'm the most interested in is how can users are already asking these things of questions and getting answers they like. How are we delivering more branded answers that are data backed, cited, and sort of drive them back not just to social but to brand domains as the ultimate authority?
Yeah, it was weird. I got a paid ad the other day on ChatGPT. I can't even remember what I had asked it, but it literally came up with like this little bottom pop-up thing, and it was like, go to this, such and such brand's website.
Was it search relevant to your search at all? I'm really curious because they're doing this beta, some of these tests right now, and there's a lot of different opinion on what it looks like. Did it make any sense to what you were searching?
I mean, I remember that the company was like in the realm of kind of what I was looking for, but I wasn't like looking up, I wasn't like, hey, tell me the top 5 hot sauce brands, in the US market or whatever. And then it just like advertised for me Tabasco. Like it didn't do that, but it was like a general question that it came up with a little thing kind of around B2B SaaS because I, use ChatGPT for B2B often. But I was like, that's weird. I don't really, I don't really want anything to do with the company advertising on ChatGPT, and I moved on because I needed my question answered. Like once again, it's that like I need
Well,
stuff faster and faster now, so like I don't have
yeah.
time to go browse.
That's what to me. It all comes down to context. One of the biggest that's
Mm-hmm.
been well reported. One of the biggest threats of large language models is lack of context. And so, to me, if ads can add context, great. If they are creating this which is like it did with you in that experience, and I think that's a poor, innovation. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Obviously, last week the big announcement was the brand apps that have just sort of deployed. So now you can kind of summon Zillow if you want to ask around comparing houses in two different neighborhoods in a city you're considering to move to. And to me, I like that because it keeps you in the
Mm-hmm.
same one feed experience with ChatGPT, but it allows almost like you go to a party and you're talking to someone and they'll like call over their friend who's the expert on real estate when you're asking a Zillow question, or call over your friend who's a songwriter when you're asking a Spotify question. So like that to me, getting back to your question even more pointedly, is I think a way that brands can play ball with ChatGPT and the likes in the future is being a part of the feed experience, but how do their brand voices get amplified by the built-in agent?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's brilliant. Well, we could probably talk about this for a long time, Michael, but you have a
I know.
busy day. It's Q4. Everybody else learning and leaning in today also has a busy day. So I will leave it at that and the understanding that AI has a long way to come. Next time I see an AI ad pop up on my chat GPT, though, I'll send it to you.
Green
Like, look at this
time,
craziness.
please. I would love to see what it is.
Yeah. But it's been great chatting with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to fill us in on how you've been using social video to basically just enhance your clients, mitigate some of those potential crises that are coming up, and understand where their baselines are across social. Always happy to chat. And thank you, everybody, for coming. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much,
Happy
Elizabeth.
Tuesday. Bye.